Today on Voiding Warranties, I'm going to fix the things I found when taking the Blue Beast out the first time under boost. I'm going to change out all the water that's in there for actual coolant. I'm going to replace the spark plugs because I'm getting spark blowout at high RPM. And I'm going to change the fuel pressure sensor because it's a Chinese-made piece of crap. Let's get started. Alright guys, I'm almost there. I've only got one more thing left to do before I can take the Blue Beast back into boost again, and hopefully with less problems this time. I've got to change the spark plugs. The problem I'm having is I'm getting breakup at high RPM. Now I'm thinking the spark plugs are fouled and that's causing the problem. They could just be old and worn and I need to replace all of them anyway. We'll find out here in a minute. The spark plugs on a Rotary are not in a very good location. I mean, I've seen worse. They could be on the back of the engine block facing the firewall. So I guess down here isn't that bad. But you still have to have an extension and a little universal joint and a cool engine so you don't burn yourself. Now the spark plugs on a Rotary engine are kind of different from a regular piston engine. You have two spark plugs for each housing, a leading and a trailing. And they're marked right on the housing with a little L and a little T, but I don't think anybody actually gets that right aside from Rotary engine owners. In fact, I'm pretty sure the dealership even gets them wrong. You see, I've seen both leading plugs in the front and both trailing in the rear. That's wrong. It's really kind of simple. Trailing has a T, so you put it on top. Leading has an L, and you can see the L from the side, so you put it where it belongs. Then you're set. Now, helps to have it in the reverse direction. Man, who put these on there? They're so tight. Oh yeah, that was me. Another thing to note is be real gentle with these spark plugs, especially when you're torquing them in, because you have steel plugs in an aluminum housing. There are no inserts or anything like that. And aluminum tears up pretty easy. You don't want to have to go retap it and put a helicoil in. That's just a bad day all around. Also, it's really good if you leave your engine overnight to cool down before you do this, because otherwise it will be hot and the spark plug will be hot, and it'll all be kind of like playing hot potato when you get it out. Don't do that. Now, one of the things when I change spark plugs is I pull both leading together and I pull both trailing together after I have the leading replaced. Now this is for a pretty simple reason. I don't want to screw up and swap the wires between the leading and trailing, or between two leading and between two trailing. So I only take two sets of plug wires off at the same time, and they pretty much hang where they're supposed to be, so I don't have to worry too much. Now here's the first leading plug. This thing's pretty nasty. Could be our problem. What's behind door number 2? I dropped the socket and okay, got it. Oh wow, this one is just as nasty, if not worse. I think we're onto something. All right. Now I have the two nasty spark plugs right here, and I don't have replacements. I didn't think about doing this beforehand, and I'm in a small town, so I got to special order these things. It's also cheaper that way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean these and put them back. But how do you clean spark plugs? I'll show you. So, you're probably wondering how I clean my spark plugs, and this is it. I have a pneumatic spark plug cleaner, and I purchased this one pretty cheaply at Harbor Freight. It's actually the second one I've had. I broke the first one. And this one's seen better days too. But you know what? Doesn't matter. One spark plug cleaner, cheaper than one spark plug for this car. So worth it. even better. Oh, I can't remember. Is this supposed to be down or up? Yep. Point it right in my eyes. That's a good plan. So I like to drive them all the way in by hand before I torque them down. And I put Moly Coat on the threads. All right, one more set to go. Those are the two trailing, and they are pretty grotty. You know, it's really fun and extremely challenging trying to do this exact same thing with the car on the ground and the tire attached in a parking lot because your car is flooded, because you didn't ground your new coil mod quite well enough and you don't realize why the car won't start yet. And on that note, shout out to Cooper for helping me get home that night. I remember when I left the parking lot at work, there was a huge cloud of smoke coming out of the back of my car. I was kind of worried that somebody would notice and I would get in trouble. But it didn't happen. All right, spark plugs are in and they have been torqued down to snug, which is an official increment of torque. Before I put the wheel on, let me make sure it starts and runs. Oh, we're in business. We're in business, all right. She's alive. She's alive. And with a little bit of luck, I won't have any problems at high RPM anymore. I'll be able to go into boost without problem, start tuning her, keep on voiding warranties.